What's up everybody, it's Lids, and we're back for some more Gwent, and today we're playing the new +1 seasonal event, which is an alternate game mode in which whenever we play a unit, we will also spawn in a 1-power copy of that unit. That means we get twice as many copies of some of our strongest cards. Today we're going to be playing a deck that benefits a lot from getting additional units spawned in, so let's go give it a look. So today we'll be playing a Syndicate Congregate Firesworn deck that generates lots of points and coins whenever we spawn in a unit. Perhaps the best example of that is the Fallen Knight that will get boosted whenever we spawn in a unit, and because we're going to spawn in a unit every time we play a unit in this event, that means tons of points with basically no setup. Then we'll use the Firesworn Scribe that will generate coins every time we spawn in a unit, giving us tons of coins. And once we have at least 4 coins, Lieutenant von Herst will spawn in Firesworn Zealots automatically every turn, or we can spend coins to create Firesworn Zealots with the Grand Inquisitor Helveed. We can even use Ulrich to play another Fallen Knight, or use Igor to pay coins to get another Fallen Knight. Then because our opponent will create 1-power copies of their units from +1, we're going to have easy targets with Irae, which we can use as our finisher. Then in round 2/3, we can use Cyrus Englekind Hemmelfart to destroy one of our little Firesworn tokens and create another Fallen Knight. And we can do that every turn if we'd like to. And we also have Jacques Miraculous Child, which, because we have Devotion, by the time we reach round 3, will transform into Jacques Grandmaster, who will give us more coins, more units to spawn in, and another way of spending coins to generate additional value. So those are all the key cards in the deck, but now I'll flip through to show you what else we have. And Bincy will generate tons of points whenever we're generating those coins, which, because we can generate coins when we spawn in units in many situations, means she could get pretty big as well. Roderick is another coin generator. Then Keeper of the Flame is another big finisher. And Line of Credit, because we're going to be spawning in so many units, we're going to run out of space fairly quickly, so it's actually possibly a good thing to destroy likely one of our tokens, so we create some more space and, in the process, generate a bunch of coins. Then Tax Collector, obviously, also gives us additional coins. And then the Lonely Champion is another solution in case we have practically filled our rows with tokens, because it will absorb all of the power from those tokens, clearing out some additional space so we can spawn in more. So there's a look at the deck, and like I said, the focus is on spawning as many units as possible and generating points and coins whenever we do. With that being said, we are going to fill up our row space very, very quickly. So it is important to keep that in mind. Might mean that we'll want to keep rounds a little bit shorter so we don't run out of space. But with that being said, we still have a few solutions in case we are almost out of room. Now let's go see the deck in action. Alright, so going up against Northern Realms here, and they'll go first. Okay, so we have a coin generator with the Tax Collector, and then we have some point engines with Fallen Knight, perhaps most importantly, and then Eternal Fire Priest, which is basically a weaker version of the Fallen Knight. Not sure we're going to need Line of Credit here. So getting another Fallen Knight is very nice. And we'd like to save Jacques and Hemmelfart for subsequent rounds, so that's a little bit iffy, having them both in our hand in round 1. Obviously, they're great, though, so we'll make do. So, sure, we'll go with this. And oh, no. With Northern Realms? Okay, humor me. Okay, so they use their stratagem here, and usually this would be combined with Snowdrop for crazy point totals. But no, it's Reynard. Okay, not entirely sure what to make of this just yet. They likely will need to destroy some of their Iterans with self-damage in order to create space and actually be able to spawn in additional units, because Northern Realms does not have a lot of ways to move cards. But now let's go with the Fallen Knight. Imagine if this got boosted whenever they spawn a unit as well. Oh man, that would be pretty nice right about now. Might even just use a single Congregate charge here. just to make it a little bit tougher for them to take out this Fallen Knight, but if they have damage, then they may very well end up doing it. Alright, so what is the deal? What are they going for here? They are eyeing our Fallen Knight, but no, it's Sumerian Drummers. So we can use both of our Fallen Knights in round 1 if we'd like, as long as we save Hemmelfart for a future round so that we can bring him back. So, sure, in that case, we'll go this route here. And I think if they had damage, they would have taken out this Fallen Knight. Since they didn't, hopefully this one is safe. Except it is not. Potentially not. We'll see where this damage happens to go. Okay, so a little bit more at the end of their turn here. Our Fallen Knights hold on. We did lose a little bit of our coin generation, but we don't have a huge need for coins at the moment because we don't have much in the way of spenders. So now let's go Eternal Fire Priest, because these also get boosted whenever we spawn in units. Okay, then it's a Botchling, which will deal a little bit of damage to us, but shouldn't shut down any of our engines. So now I think we go with Vivaldi Bank here, because we don't really have much in the way of spenders, and so we might as well find a good use of our coins here, which we could potentially get with Grand Inquisitor Helveed. Either that or Igor even, to create additional Fallen Knights, although that might not be necessary here. Bincy also great, although we've done much of our coin generation already, so I think we go Helveed. And spawn in some of these guys, because at this stage, we generate enough points whenever we do that, well, we've caught them. But, okay, here is Snowdrop. So, yes, they did try to do Irae plus Snowdrop, at least in some way, shape, or form. It is a little odd how they chose to use her when they only had room for a single Snowdrop. Okay, they did actually destroy one of our Firesworn Zealots with the random damage from a Trident Infantry. That is nice, because that now means we could go with a Lonely Champion in our range row to absorb the 3 Firesworn Zealots that we currently see, and in doing so, create additional room for us to spawn in more of them. So that is probably what we go for here. Because now we can go and, well, create some additional Firesworn Zealots and get a ton of boost whenever we do that. They'll pass. And they do have some passive boosting and damage, which leaves us tied here. We are not currently generating any automatic points or dealing any automatic damage when we pass, so that does mean we're looking to play here. And so I think we go with Desiree, and pretty much anything that has 1 or 2 power would be a decent target here. So why don't we, say, maybe get rid of this Marion Drummer? Because that will boost all of our units. We'll get the echoed copy of Desiree in round 2, which is not a bad thing. We'll get a little more damage here, but definitely not enough to catch us, so we'll win round 1. Okay, and we did play one more card than our opponent in round 1, so we might dry pass here. Although long rounds can be a little bit tricky for us because we can run out of space if we're not careful. We do get a few coin generators with Roderick and with the Firesworn Scribe, so that's good because we were running a little bit low on those in round 1. But we might just do a little bit of pushing here and at least play, say, Roderick. And in doing so, generate some additional coins, yes, but perhaps force them to play some of the cards that they were planning to save for round 3. Okay, Nero into Dawnamir. We can at least get rid of their defender, so I suppose that's not a bad thing, although we weren't really all that likely to mess with any of their cards anyway. We only have a little bit of damage with Desiree. Okay, but they're using a leader ability charge as well. So they do have more points than us right now. So if we were to pass, then they would have card advantage in round 3. So now it's a question of, do we push all the way in this round? Because we could spawn in some Firesworn Zealots with our leader ability and then convert them with Hemmelfart. We have Jacques de Aldersberg. who can also spawn in some Flaming Rose Footmen. So it's not the worst idea out there, but I think more than anything, I was just concerned about us running out of space in round 3 if we were looking at having 9 or 10 cards, so we'll keep it short in round 2. We generate a little bit of coins, but they'll take the win. Okay, so we draw into Firesworn Scribe, which is great for generating coins, and we now have a great spender with Jacques, so that's awesome. Then Ulrich can create additional copies of, guess it would be a Firesworn Scribe, so just ridiculous coin generation in that case. Lonely Champion can be good if we're spawning in a ton of units, because this will absorb all of them, create additional space. We may not need Keeper of the Flame, or at least we may be able to do better than that. And Bincy, when we are generating all these coins, is amazing, so that is perfect. So as I said, we played a card in round 2 when we didn't really need to, largely because I was a little bit concerned about us running out of space, which may still be a potential problem. So that's why I wanted to make round 3 a little bit shorter. That was the primary purpose of playing in round 2. So they do use Renew to get back Dawnamir. What is the plan here? They go the range row? I'm thinking that might mean Visigoda. But let's start with the Firesworn Scribes. And think we will actually save the coins for now, because our primary spender is going to end up being Jacques. Okay, and yep, it is Visigoda, as expected. Okay, so I think we might actually go with Bincy now. They'll get boosted because we generate coins when we spawn units, and we just spawn some units. Okay, then they're using a leader ability charge here to get Anastringers. That'll give them a lot of boosts. Between those Visigodas and the Anastringers, they'll probably try to get both of them inspired. So now let's go with Hemmelfart. Spawn in some more units here. We're actually already maxed on our coins, so let's use Hemmelfart to transform some of these guys into Fallen Knights. Okay, then it's Trident Infantry. That's going to be their primary target for their boosting. We did lose one of our Firesworn Scribes. However, we have a ton of ways to create more of them, so not too concerned about that. In fact, let's use Hemmelfart to convert you into another Fallen Knight. And now we go Ulrich and create more Firesworn Scribes. And this time, how are we doing on coins? We're at 5. We might pay this tribute because we're going to generate a lot of coins when we play this. Okay, then it's Oneiromancy into Banard Student. Okay, and they're dishing out some damage with the Trident Infantry when it gets boosted, yes, but we are running a little bit out of space here, as expected, and so it's not the worst thing if they dump some of our units for us. So now let's give ourselves another spender with Jacques. And we will use his tribute. Spawn in some other peoples here, which we can then convert into additional Fallen Knights. And then we can use Jacques as a spender for us. We could convert this Flaming Rose Footman, although we've run out of Fallen Knights in our graveyard, so it's not going to be as good of an option anymore. And now let's go Firesworn Scribe for even more coin generation when we spawn. We don't have many more units that we're going to spawn in, but we do still have a couple of leader ability charges. We just don't really have the space for that right now. So we're going to wait for them to damage us before we do that. And we also have Lonely Champion, which can help us a little bit in that regard, but we have converted many of our tokens into Fallen Knights. So I think at this point, we're probably looking for Jacques to be our primary spender. Rather than Hemmelfart. Okay, then it's an Heir 2's Adept. They do have some patience going on right now. Not a ton. But they're starting to run out of space. And as I was saying, we could use a little bit of space of our own, so we'd kind of like if they would destroy some of our cards here. And Hemmelfart, as I was saying, is not as necessary anymore. So I think in that case, what we're probably looking to do here is we'll use Congregate to spawn in an additional unit here. And because this row is nearly full, and we do have a couple of Firesworn tokens there, that's where we'll use the Lonely Champion. Then we'll spawn in an additional unit there, or probably spend a little bit with the Jacques first, so we don't over-earn. Then we spawn you in. Okay, so they have a Redanian Archer, and that's going to fill their rows here. So it'll be interesting to see what their last card is. They can still generate a fair bit of boosts and damage with their Visigoths and Ennistrangers, even if they do run out of space, as we see right there. So they're not done with us just yet. And you could even potentially make the case for deliberately not triggering the death blow on Desiree against any of their cards here for that reason. Either way, they're going to forfeit. So we'll take the win. Alright, so going up against Nilfgaard here. And we'll go first. Okay, so we have some coin generators with Firesworn Scribe and with Roderick. We have some point engines with Eternal Fire Priest, and we could create more of them with Ulrich, although we would prefer for these to be Fallen Knights. So I think we probably try swapping one of them out, or maybe even Excommunication, and hope we happen to get a Fallen Knight there. Let's start with you. And line of credit is not really what we're looking for. Desiree is nice, but we're really looking for a key engine here. Bincy could be the answer, though. In which case, let's save our initial Firesworn Scribe for a subsequent round. Let's instead focus on using Ulrich to create some here. And between that and our stratagem, we should be at a decent number of coins to start off with. Okay, they will put spying on this Firesworn Scribe. And that will set it up for some damage. Now let's break out Bincy, though. That'll give us a little bit of coins, but we may also want to use Tiger's Eye now to get these two boosted up and make it harder for them to take them out. Because once we have a decent number of coins, the Firesworn Scribes aren't quite as important. Of course, we'd still love to generate as many coins as we can with them to keep the Bincy's going. But we do also have Roderick for that purpose, if needed. But since we are already at 8 coins, and we're going to get some more whenever we spawn in more units, I think now is the time to go with Lieutenant von Herst, because he will spawn in a ton of units, and once we get out these Firesworn Zealots, we can use Lieutenant von Herst to convert them. Okay, it's a Mage Torturer, so they are definitely trying to take out the Bincy's. That is easier said than done. So now let's go Eternal Fire Priest, because those will get boosted whenever we spawn in units. And since we're just capped out on coins right now, that's where spending with our Von Hersts is going to be important, so that we can actually still generate additional coins. Okay, then they're going with Angry Mob, which will have some additional damage, assuming that they target a unit with spying, and they do. Then we're starting to run a little bit low on space here, so we could consider going with something like Keeper of the Flame. I think we probably do go that route. But before we do, let's do some conversion. And now let's play you. And pay the tribute to boost everybody in the row. And that's probably going to be the last card that we play in this round, because we are pretty much out of space here. The only alternative could potentially be to use Excommunication to get rid of one of these Firesworn Zealots and play whatever we happen to get out from our deck. Best thing would be if we happen to get Irae, but I think given how we are looking at a pretty sizable lead here, that may not be necessary. Especially because we'll still spawn in one more of these Zealots and get a small boost on those priests. So they're going to steal some stuff. Which, honestly, I wish they'd stolen something in melee row, because then we would have more room to spawn things in. But they're still going, and I have some questions about whether that was the right play, because we still have a pretty huge lead here. They've already gone down one card. An angry mob is not going to be enough for them to catch up to us here, so they're going to need to go down many cards if they want to take the round 1 win. I know you have the damage with those turncoats, but it's just not fast enough here. Snowdrop. Don't know if they were trying to do some kind of nasty combo with multiplying those snowdrops to give them huge boosts across the board. Double snowdrop is still reasonably effective, yes, but it's not like they're combining it with Irae here, and so that means even with those double snowdrops, they still have not caught us. And it's Amnesty, they'll steal another one of our units. And once you add in the damage from the turncoats, it does look like that may be enough, although they have now given us room in our melee row, which means we will spawn in more units and get more boosts from that. And they'll steal Igor from our hand. They don't need to do that, I don't think. So they will take the round 1 win, but they go 4 cards down and a leader ability down to do it. Okay, so they are 4 cards down here, so they should dry pass, which means we're looking for a throwaway card here, and we don't really have one other than if we wanted to use the Lonely Champion for that, but I think we'd like to swap out one of our line of credits. Vivaldi Bank could potentially give us something to throw away, but I think we're more so looking for something small. I mean, we could, I suppose. They do pass. We could play a Firesworn Scribe. I'd like to save at least one for round 3, but since we now have 2 of them in our hand, I suppose this one is a little more disposable. So, sure, we'll go that route. And we will withhold the tribute. Gives us a tiny bit more coins. Actually, it's not going to matter, because we will get rounded down going into round 3, but we'll take the round 2 win either way and still have a lot of card advantage. Okay, so we draw into a Fallen Knight. That is key. That is our best bronze unit. And as long as we have a Firesworn Scribe, then this Tax Collector is probably unnecessary, especially since we also have Roderick. Line of Credit can help destroy some of our units once a row gets full, which could certainly happen, although that is also why Lonely Champion is here, so we might not need this. And Hemmelfart is great, so I think let's start with the Firesworn Scribe. And you could potentially make the case for paying the tribute here, but I think we'll pass. Okay, then they'll go Furcart, with which they get Renew. This makes me a little nervous. That is, of course, I was going to say, one of the cards that people use when they're spamming the Irae plus Snowdrop combos. You tend not to see with Nilfgaard. It's not the easiest thing to set up with them. So they bring back the turncoats instead. And with these Firesworn Scribes now having Spying, they may go down relatively quickly, but we do have some alternative coin generators, such as Roderick, and potentially even Jacques. But first, let's get the Fallen Knights out here. Okay, and yep, they're trying to destroy these Firesworn Scribes. Emir, for some more Spying. And they could even steal this Firesworn Scribe if they'd like. Not sure that's going to help them all that much. And so now what we do is we go Igor. And with him, we create an additional Fallen Knight. And then if we just spawn in one little unit there, that means we now have enough coins to spawn in a second Fallen Knight. So now they're going after Igor. It is perhaps a little too late for that. The damage is done for the most part. We may not spawn in any additional Fallen Knights just because we need room to spawn in units. And that's generally going to mean Firesworn Zealots. Okay, it's Necromancy. I imagine that's going to mean, yep, more turncoats here. Of course, the Fallen Knights have Veil. So if their entire strategy is built around giving us spying and then damaging our spying units, well, they can't do it to the Fallen Knights. So now I think we go with Jacques, because we could use the Prophets, and we'll pay the tribute to spawn in more units. It gives us another spender here, so that way, if we do start to reach our maximum number of coinage, which we are pretty close to doing, we have a way of working around that. We can create additional Fallen Knights. I want to be a little bit careful here, because we are very close to running out of space. Let's use our other coins instead to boost Jacques a bit. We can, however, remember, use the Lonely Champion to absorb the power from our tokens, and so if we do start to run out of space, that is a way to work around that. And they will create an Igor of their own, which is actually kind of meaningful. Does give them another one of the turncoats. But they're just running out of units with spying here, because we have so many units with Veil. And so I guess we go Roderick here for the coins. It's not really all that necessary, because we already are doing pretty well from a coin generation standpoint. I'm still going to use Jacques as our primary spender here, because I think we have pretty much Fallen Knighted ourselves out. And of course, Roderick is another unit with Veil, which is another unit to frustrate all their thin-ed turncoats. Fortunately, them destroying some of our units is making it easier for us to have space, and we could Desiree on one of their thin-ed turncoats. We could have done that a while ago, yes. However, the damage they're dealing to us in some cases is actually kinda helpful, and we'd like to ideally wait to do this till near the end of the round when we have as many units out there as possible. So I think in that case, let's go with Hemmelfart. And we can spawn in even more units here. And although it looks like we can replace one of our Firesworn Zealots, I'm not sure that that actually works when our rows are full. So I think we wait a little bit before we do that and maybe find a way to get rid of some of these guys first. Or they help us out by destroying some of our units. Preferably not Hemmelfart, though. I mean, that one does have spying, this one does not. Okay, then it's the Duchess's Informant. No, don't do that. Don't fill our rows. That's illegal. Okay, well, they'll steal them, and they'll steal that Firesworn Scribe, which they probably should have done a while ago. So now we can use this Hemmelfart to transform this Flaming Rose Footman into something else, so let's go that route here. And we just don't really have a lot of space left to spawn units, so I mean, I guess we'll go Eternal Fire Priest, but just not a ton of time. And there you see, it does require that you have free space there. That's why I didn't do it previously. And I guess we'll go Desiree now. And we should be spending with Jacques, because we're at max coins. Yeah, we should just be spending like crazy with him at this point. I love that they're giving us additional space, though. Especially because we could use just having a tiny bit of space in our melee row with the Lonely Champion, because then we can carve out even more space with him. Obviously, they've passed, we've won, so we'll end it here, I suppose, but the play would be Lonely Champion melee row to consume these Firesworn Zealots to create additional room. We'd continue to generate more coins, which we would spend with Jacques. We could even, I suppose, convert more Firesworn Zealots into other things with Hemmelfart if we'd like, and Vivaldi Bank, Excommunication on whatever our weakest units are. Again, ideally would be the Firesworn tokens, and just see what we happen to get. But on this occasion, not necessary, because we already have the win. Alright, so going up against monsters here, and we'll go first. Okay, so we have a Firesworn Scribe, in fact, 2 of them, so that's great for coins, means that Tax Collector is probably a little bit overkill. And, well, of course, Jacques is great, especially if we wait long enough for him to turn into Grand Master. We have an Eternal Fire Priest, which is okay, but we would certainly prefer a Fallen Knight, so maybe we try dumping one of these Keepers of the Flame. And Bincy, okay, so maybe we actually do use Bincy as our primary engine in that case, at least for score and points, rather than relying on a Fallen Knight, although that is possible. With Vivaldi Bank, we could potentially use that to get one. But let's begin with the Firesworn Scribes here to get some coins. Okay, then they'll go and drink a larva, so that would suggest that they are possibly going for Thrive. Let's go with another round of Firesworn Scribes, then we'll get Bincy out here. Okay, then it's a Necker. So, yes, a whole bunch of Thrive. Now we do Bincy. That'll give us a lot of coins, which will give them a lot of boosts. Okay, then it's Royal Decree, with which they'll go with the Unicorn, Quacks, in the melee row, which will get out their biggest unit and our biggest unit. They may have helped us here, because I'm not sure why you would deliberately summon out Willem on your side of the board, and we have now Igor, which gives us a decent spender if we'd like to create a copy of any of our bronze units, and the Firesworn Scribes do need to be in the range row, but the Eternal Fire Priest does not, so I think we might go with that. And then load up on, well, we're already at our max coins, so fortunately we have a spender now. So let's create additional copies of these guys. And we generate so many coins when we do that that we can almost do this once per turn. Okay, then it's Barbigazi for some consumption. No obvious targets for that consumption yet, though. Alright, so now let's do another round of Eternal Fire Priests with Igor. Now let's see what we get with Vivaldi Bank. We're technically going to overprofit a bit here, but we are at so many coins. The point was just to try to get to a Fallen Knight here. We are a little bit late to add this to the equation. Of course, we would have ideally used that rather than an Eternal Fire Priest. However, we want to try to still play one of these guys in round 1 so that we can use Hemmelfart to get one back in a subsequent round. Okay, then it's Vi. Okay, that's the answer. So they're trying to go double Vi. I'm actually not the biggest fan of it because generally when you go Vi, it is most beneficial to go all in consuming one Vi over and over again. And if you're splitting those consumptions across multipleVis, then that usually means that yourVis just aren't going to get as big. So I think this is probably going to be our last turn. Let's use Tiger's Eye. It's obviously just a whole bunch of overprofiting, but would like to get some more room in this melee row, so we can definitely do that. Then we do this with the Keeper of the Flame. And we use the Tribute to boost everyone else in this row. And that will likely be our last play. Okay, then they're gonna presumably do everything they can to get Vi back on the board and consumed as many times as possible. But here's the thing. They get that other Vi that they've already consumed for 10. The other one is just gonna have the normal base power, I believe, of 7. And that's not gonna be a huge deal. They've used some leader ability charges as well. But we have a large enough lead here that I feel pretty comfortable passing. But they're going to keep on using Vi. They're going to try to go all in round 1 here and then rely on the Vi carryover to take the round 2 and or 3 wins. But I'm just not sure it's going to be sufficient for them here, because obviously they're going to have to go a bunch of cards down to make this happen. And so they forfeit. So there's a look at a Syndicate deck designed for the new +1 seasonal event. If you liked the video, then make sure to hit the like and subscribe button and leave a comment down below to let me know which other cards, archetypes, and factions you'd like us to experiment with next. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you next time.